Every night in our home, my mother read the Bible to us, taught us Bible stories, taught us Bible verses. Faith was a part of our daily living. It was a part of my life. I knew nothing else. She instilled in each of us the wonderful verse from Proverbs 5:6, which carried me through college and today. In all thy ways, acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path. And surely and truly He did, and He does direct my path. But that was always a part of my life, not realizing how very deeply I needed it and how very deeply I depended upon it. My beloved 17-year-old brother, the all-American boy, was stricken while we were at church camp on a college campus, had called my father, a medical doctor, to come, that my brother was very ill. He rushed him to the hospital, and he was diagnosed with a severe bloodstream infection. But my poor father stood by my brother, and my mother stood for a week and watched him die. And then my faith was truly tested, because I was asked over and over, what are you going to do? How are you going to do? Oh God, be with me as I minister to Mother and Daddy and my little sister. And so it was, after finishing college and after teaching school a year, I met a handsome young man from Southern Baptist Theological Seminary from Alabama who said, Martha, darling, and that was pretty wonderful. Faith was tested over and over for us in these years before we ever married, because he had to finish the degree and was serving 2 seminary churches. They were 100 miles away from the seminary over crooked roads and no interstates in those days, and war years, and gasoline was rationed. So our faithfulness to those churches was one tested. Where do we go? What do we do? We must ask God to direct us, because so far He has certainly directed us and answered our prayers. This thing that my mother taught me about faith. Martha, remember, He is your Savior. Follow Him. God will take care of you. And quite unexpectedly, a letter came from Tulsa, Oklahoma. It was quite an opportunity for a young couple. And we came to the conclusion at the same time. He asked me, what do you think? I said, well, I feel like that we're called to go to the church that needs us the most. He said, exactly. That's my calling, my feeling. We will call them, we will come in 2 weeks. Faith. We loaded up our clothes, we had nothing else, in our little 1940 Chevrolet, Faith, that got us all the way to Tulsa. And so we thought, this is wonderful. We weren't prepared. The church was not prepared for us. They only knew we were coming. Faith, oh Faith, where are we going to stay? Well, they hadn't quite figured that out. They were just so glad we were coming. So he inquired from Mr. Shaver, we're in town now, and we are ready to be at the church tomorrow. And Mr. Shaver said, I think a hotel would be nice. And that was for 2 or 3 days, and we didn't have hotel money. Faith. So he called Mr. Shaver, and Mr. Shaver said, oh, yes, Dr. Howard, we will find you a place to stay. Faith, we didn't know what to do, but we didn't want them to worry. In 2 days, Mr. Shaver called and said, Dr. Howard, our daughter Marjorie is married to a serviceman. She and the 2 children have just left to go to San Diego. We're bringing you a key. And we were blessed in Tulsa. We never planned to leave Tulsa. We were so in love with the church and the congregation. And we had watched the church come from unhappiness and hardships to a time where we had the largest youth choir in the state. We were in love with the church and the Howards were in love with the Lord. But one Sunday, behold, faith. A pulpit committee appeared on the back seat of the church. We did not know. They spoke and visited with us. We did not know. The next Sunday, they came again. And this Sunday, they introduced themselves. We are from the Park Cities Baptist Church in Dallas, Texas. This marvelous congregation of believers had bought an old farmhouse at 4219 Lovers Lane. And behold, truly, there was not a church building. You understand that each of us grew up in very historic, old churches, had been there always. But the church was lovely, sweet, caring Christian people who so much wanted a pastor. Their faith was so evident. Many of the people in the church at that time had just come home from the war. They had young families. We want a church. We want a church. We want a pastor. And so we had to reluctantly tell Emmanuel Baptist Church, we have to move. That was a test of faith. How are we going to do this? Can we do this? But we did. And in about 3 weeks, we moved to Dallas, Texas, and lived next door in a little brick cottage. They were the only 2 buildings in that block. It was a marvelous calling, and every day, our faith was renewed. Little did we know that so soon we would be blessed. Even with 2 services, we had outgrown the little temporary building. Oh, my dear, that was very difficult. That was a test of faith. How? We had a building fund campaign. One of the dearest stories I have of faith, Dr. Howard was called one afternoon by a dear lady who lived over on Purdue. She said, now, I had made a pledge to give to the building fund, but I'm unable to go, and I can't bring my pledge, so I ask you to come over to take it for me. When she brought it to the church, he went to the business manager and he said, Mr. Carmichael, would you mind opening this? I want to see what this dear lady has done. It was $7 and some coins. That is what built Park Cities Baptist Church. The faith that she had, and the faith that she exercised, and the faith that she was living with and by. And we raised enough money to build a building. How are we going to do it? We have money for a building, but no building contractor. We went to several savings and loan and banks, and they said, so sorry, but you all have no collateral. So, faith. One day, this wonderful man in the church came, and he said, Dr. Howard, I am a 3rd-generation builder. May I give to the church my time to build the building. His name was Mr. Charlie Barnett. And so the years have gone by, and all of you who are here you see the acts of faith that have been exercised, that have been answered. Other buildings, greater facilities, more opportunities, more ministries, more activities for our children, greater classes, all of it an act of faith. The faith that Dr. Howard and I shared, we then shared with our children. They are very, very happy to tell me, Mother, we remember what you said, in all thy ways acknowledge him, and he will direct you. And I'm happy to say to you that 60 years at Park Cities has been my life of love and faith, and I'm happy to share it with you.